Welcome to the Property Elite podcast. I'll be your host, Jen Lehman, chartered surveyor and co-founder of Property Elite. Stay tuned each week for more on industry hot topics, market updates and new RICS guidance. In this week's podcast, in the midst of reviewing RICS AP submissions, I thought it would be helpful to share our top 10 most common grammar mistakes you should be aware of. Always make sure that you proofread your final submission carefully. Asking a non-surveyor is a great way to do this. They'll often identify issues that you don't and can check if the overall story and of your examples and submission makes sense. Another great tip is to use the spelling and grammar check function on Word or a more comprehensive tool such as Grammarly. So, on to our top 10 tips. 1. Long sentences. It can be really difficult to read a submission where extremely long sentences are used. Try to keep sentences short and to the point, breaking them up at a natural point. For example, the above sentence I said could have been written as, it can be really difficult to read a submission where extremely long sentences are used, so try to keep sentences short and to the point and break them up at a natural point. This feels clumsy and is harder to follow than what I said before. 2. Use of contractions. The APC submission is a formal piece of work. We recommend avoiding contractions such as don't or can't. Instead, use the full do not or cannot. It might be tempting to do this to save words, but it reduces the overall professionalism and formality of your written work. 3. Use of US rather than UK English if you're a UK candidate. Always use UK English if you're submitting in the UK using S rather than Z. For example, formalise with an S rather than formalise with a Z. There are also some specific spellings to be aware of, such as meter with an ER in the US and meter RE in the UK. Always check that the spell check function on your word processing software is set to English UK to help avoid these errors. Number 4 is the use of apostrophes. We often see apostrophes for single and plural words being used incorrectly. If you're talking about something that a client owns, then you need to use the singular, the clients, so T'(S) property. If you're talking more generally about meeting the needs of multiple clients, then you'd use clients with an apostrophe after the S, needs. Number 5, tense. In the APC submission, ensure that you use the first person and past tense. This means that you'll be talking about what you did, not what somebody else is doing or what your firm might do. For example, I dealt with a rent review in Bristol. I inspected, measured, and analysed the subject lease. This is what we want to see, rather than we dealt with a rent review in Bristol. We would inspect, measure, and analyse the subject lease. This is definitely what we do not want to see. You need to clearly explain in your submission what you did, not what others did, in real life examples, which will have happened, of course, in the past. Number 6 is being too verbose. A key skill in writing your submission is to be clear and concise. Sometimes we see phrases that are too verbose or wordy and can be simplified. For example, it came to my attention that the client's rent review was overdue, and I advised them to instruct me to deal with it at the earliest opportunity. Instead, why not say, I identified an overdue rent review and sought instructions for my client to deal with it. This is where asking a non-surveyor to proofread your work will pay dividends. 7 is use of and in lists. If you're writing a list, then you only need and before the last item. So, for example, the correct way would be write, I collated, weighted, and analysed the comparables, rather than I collated and weighted and analysed the comparable evidence. Whilst this is a really simple example, it's important to note the correct use of and in longer lists. Number 8, use of could of rather than could have. Although when spoken, could have sounds a lot like could of, the correct usage is always could have. So, for example, the client could have proceeded with option 1. However, the time constraints meant that I advised proceeding with option 2. So this is could have, not could of. 9, tautologies. This is where you say the same thing twice in a sentence, just using different words. So, for example, dilapidated ruins, close proximity, added bonus, or large crowd. These all say the same thing twice. You could have just said ruins, close, bonus, and crowd, which is far simpler. Number 10 is you and your. Getting the use of your, and their right can be tricky. Your, Y-O-U-R, is where something belongs to you. Your, with an apostrophe R-E, means you are. So saying something like, you are an APC candidate. Their EIR is similar in that this is where something belongs to another person or them. There, ERE, relates to where something is physically, so over there, for example. And number 11, an added bonus, actually just a bonus. So commonly, we see where and were confused. Where relates to the location of something, whereas were is a past tense verb. Careful reading will help to pick these up. In your submission, it's really important to present a fully proofread document to your assessors. However, spelling and grammar can be a challenge to many candidates, particularly if you are dyslexic. We recommend seeking support with proofreading if this is the case. For example, we can help with a submission review or hourly mentoring, as well as checking out the How to Write in Plain English guide. A copy of this is available for free on our website. When using this, however, do bear in mind the advice we give in your written submission, such as using the past tense in first person, which may contradict some of the advice in the Plain English guide and is very specific to the APC submission requirements. Thanks for listening to the Property Elite podcast this week. Head to our website to check out our full blog, free and paid support resources and services, free consultation for every single RICS APC and ASOC RICS candidate, and also ask us any questions you have via the website chat blog. See you next week.